The south-east trade winds, met rather light in about 4 degrees north, gave her sails now a stiff full, sending her handsomely over the sea toward the coast of Brazil, where on October 5, just north of Olinda Point, without further incident, she made the land, casting anchor in Pernambuco harbour about noon, 40 days from Gibraltar, and all well on board. Did I tire of the voyage in all that time? Not a bit of it. I was never in better trim in all my life, and was eager for the more perilous experience of rounding the Horn. It was not at all strange, in a life common to sailors, that, having already crossed the Atlantic twice, and being now half-way from Boston to the Horn, I should find myself still among friends. My determination to sail westward from Gibraltar not only enabled me to escape the pirates of the Red Sea, but, in bringing me to Pernambuco, landed me on familiar shores. I had made many voyages to this and other ports in Brazil. In 1893, I was employed as master to take the famous Ericsson ship Destroyer from New York to Brazil to go against the rebel Mello and his party. The Destroyer, by the way, carried a submarine cannon of enormous length. In the same expedition went the Nictheroy, the ship purchased by the United States government during the Spanish War, and renamed the Buffalo. The Destroyer was in many ways the better ship of the two, but the Brazilians in their curious war sank her themselves at Bahia. With her sank my hope of recovering wages due me. Still, I could but try to recover, for to me it meant a great deal. But now, within 2 years, the whirligig of time had brought the Mello party into power, and although it was the legal government which had employed me, the so-called rebels felt under less obligation to me than I could have wished. During these visits to Brazil, I had made the acquaintance of Dr. Pereira, owner and editor of El Comercio Jornal, and soon after the Spray was safely moored in Upper Topsail Reach. The doctor, who is a very enthusiastic yachtsman, came to pay me a visit, and to carry me up the waterway of the lagoon to his country residence. The approach to his mansion by the waterside was guarded by his armada, a fleet of boats, including a Chinese sampan, a Norwegian pram, and a Cape Ann dory, the last of which he obtained from the Destroyer. The doctor dined me often on good Brazilian fare, that I might, as he said, sale gordo for the voyage, but he found that even on the best I fattened slowly. Fruits and vegetables, and all other provisions necessary for the voyage having been taken in, on the 23rd of October, I unmoored and made ready for sea. Here I encountered one of the unforgiving Mello faction, in the person of the collector of customs, who charged the Spray tonnage dues when she cleared, notwithstanding that she sailed with a yacht licence, and should have been exempt from port charges. Our consul reminded the collector of this, and of the fact, without much diplomacy, I thought, that it was I who brought the Destroyer to Brazil. "Oh yes," said the bland collector, "we remember it very well," for it was now, in a small way, his turn. Mr. Lundgren, a merchant, to help me out of the trifling difficulty, offered to freight the Spray with a cargo of gunpowder for Bahia, which would have put me in funds. And when the insurance companies refused to take the risk on cargo shipped on a vessel manned by a crew of only one, he offered to ship it without insurance, taking all the risk himself. This was perhaps paying me a greater compliment than I deserved. The reason why I did not accept the business was that in so doing I found that I should vitiate my yacht license and run into more expense for harbour dues around the world than the freight would amount to. Instead of all this, another old merchant friend came to my assistance, advancing the cash direct. While at Pernambuco, I shortened the boom, which had been broken when off the coast of Morocco, by removing the broken piece, which took about 4 feet off the inboard end. I also refitted the jaws. On October 24, 1895, a fine day even as days go in Brazil, the Spray sailed, having had abundant good cheer. Making about 100 miles a day along the coast, I arrived at Rio de Janeiro, November 5, without any event worth mentioning, and about noon cast anchor near Voyage to await the official port visit. On the following day, I bestirred myself to meet the highest lord of the Admiralty and the ministers, to inquire concerning the matter of wages due me from the beloved destroyer. The high official I met said, "Captain, so far as we are concerned, you may have the ship, and if you care to accept her, we will send an officer to show you where she is." I knew well enough where she was at that moment. The top of her smokestack being awash in Bahia, it was more than likely that she rested on the bottom there. I thanked the kind officer, but declined his offer. The Spray, with a number of old shipmasters on board, sailed about the harbour of Rio the day before she put to sea. As I had decided to give the Spray a yawl rig for the tempestuous waters of Patagonia, I here placed on the stern a semicircular brace to support a jigger mast. These old captains inspected the Spray's rigging, and each one contributed something to her outfit. Captain Jones, who had acted as my interpreter at Rio, gave her an anchor, and one of the steamers gave her a cable to match it. She never dragged Jones's anchor once on the voyage, and the cable not only stood the strain on a lee shore, but when towed off Cape Horn, helped break combing seas astern that threatened to board her.